Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your minifigure host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody. Hope you are all doing well. Today, if you could not tell already, on this episode, we have the exit interviews with Eddie and Asiza from Lego Masters United States Season 3. I guess it's not just United States because we got Canadians in here. However, it is Lego Masters Season 3, and these are the first, well, not the first two. They are the second pair to go, but they are the first one to do an interview post being booted off the show. So let's go ahead and kick off into the interview.
Really enjoyed your builds, but my first question was one that I asked a lot of the teams. Whose idea was it to try out for Lego Masters? And tell me a little bit about the process of how you came together. You know, why you decided to try out and how that went.
I was initially contacted. I guess one of the producers or casting staff had found me through my Instagram. So they contacted me and asked if we wanted to try out. And I originally was going to do it with two other partners that didn't work out. And I was talking to my sister about it, and she threw out the offer to come on and team up with me, and I jumped. So that's how that all happened.
Yeah, there was absolutely no way I was going to let him not take advantage of this opportunity, if it came his way. He is definitely the senior builder on our team. I know enough to be dangerous and can make cute little dainty things. But I grew a lot, in just the experience of this. And it has really just spurred a new passion for my own creations and what I'm able to do going forward. So yeah, it was kind of one of those accidental experiences for me, but I was super proud to get to go and partner with my brother. We've always made a really good team just in life. So, I think that served us well in the time that we were on the show, as we collaborate well, we work together very well. Two things you really need when you are in that type of environment. So
yeah, it showed that you did work together in your builds. And one of the things that we don't get to see as viewers, there's all these amazing builds, and you get to see that we know as builders, since most of us watching know what it takes to build things, but you have these builds and they're given about 10 seconds of airtime, it feels like. And I really enjoyed the positivity that you infused in your builds. Tell me about maybe some of the details that didn't get shown on TV on your builds that you're particularly proud of.
I don't know. Caesar, want to start with that?
Yeah, well, on the first build, I think that going into it, we're positive people just in general, really laid back. It's kind of just our nature to, see the upside of things. And so for that very first build, there was a lot tied into it. It was the fact that we were the Sunshine siblings. It was the fact that we do, in our just day-to-day lives, really do try to promote positivity and be upbeat people. We had the purple and gold representing our old high school in there. We just wanted to do something fun, something creative, which for us, that was very creative. And I think that that's one thing that, I would appreciate if it's expressed. We were very humbled to even be invited to the table. We have a very specific style of build. This definitely pushed us out of our comfort zone in that. So, we're just very proud of what it was that we put out. I think that one of the fun things about it is that we build off of each other. So we knew we had to make a spaceship. We came up with the colors, and then the smaller details kind of came together as we formulated the story, which is my expertise in the team, if I may say, Ed. I'm the storyteller. And so it was fun to see all those things come together, and then super fun to just have all of the intricate pieces to be able to put that together. Because as you may know, as a builder, sometimes you don't always have the parts and pieces that you want. So we had this pretty cool wonderland of options there. And, you know, we put together what we could. So I don't know if you want to speak to.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, everything she just said, including, like I said, the idea for the build in itself, it started with trying to be creative. We knew we had to build something big. We had to build something flashy. They love a lot of color. So, like I said, luckily we both went to the same high school. Our colors were purple and gold. California represent Lakers, you know what I mean? So that tied into it. At the time, yeah, at the time, I was actually working a different job. I was a delivery driver. And that's why I kind of went with the square idea for the spaceship to make it look like a delivery truck. And that was our theme. You know, our spaceship flew through the galaxy, sucking up all the positive rays and whatnot, and delivering smiles to the crews of the space stations to keep them upbeat, because they're in outer space. You know what I mean? That gets dreary and dark and boring out there. So you got to keep that energy up. So that was kind of the idea behind it. And just like she said, it was very, it was interesting to try to build it because we were working with a plethora of new material that neither one of us have in our own personal inventory. I got to tell you, 5 million bricks is a whole lot different from what I have sitting behind me. So there were all kinds of elements that we were brand new to, and we just kind of were able to go crazy with it. And I was pretty happy with the way that it came out. I think it represented us. It represented our build style. It represented what we wanted to promote. And I think we executed it pretty well.
And I'll piggyback on that too with our second build. You know, we are outdoorsy people as a family. We spend a lot of time outside at the park. We were at the park this last weekend for little Bree's birthday. And so we wanted to bring that into our build. Again, we had a very unique story to tie to that it happened obviously so that we could be on Lego Masters one day to tell about it, you know, and right. we really tried to just incorporate just those familiar aspects of park life and just being outdoors and being together and having fun in that second build, you know, just trying to bring some lightness to, you know, what would have been a terrifying situation if dinosaurs really did show up on the scene. So
right.
Yeah.
That I love those details, and I love the purple and gold. I had wondered if there was a California or Laker connection there.
Of course.
Last question for me before I turn it over to my colleagues. As you mentioned, Eddie, building there on the set is a significant difference than building in your own build room. What was the biggest thing you had to get adjusted to? Was it just that there were so many bricks? Was it the clock? Was it the lights? Was the set? What was the biggest challenge in building on set?
For me, honestly, the absolute hardest thing to adjust to was standing and building. I've never done that my entire life up to this point right now. I sit on my floor cross-legged like I'm still 8 years old. And that's the way I build. I'm not used to being on my feet for that long in one place. Running back and forth to the brick pit. Of course, you know, you're able to move around and get a little stretching going on there, but for the most part, you're doing a lot of standing in one place. And for a person like myself who has a hard time sitting still, that in itself was kind of torturous. But you kind of got past that because you knew you had a task at hand, you know, and that kind of eased it up. Like I said, going back to having all those elements. It was like being in a brand new playground. You know, when you go to a brand new park with all new equipment and all new toys, it's like you could be the most tired in the world, but it's exciting because everything's brand new and you just want to touch everything and grab everything. And that's kind of how that was for me.
I'd say for me, it was definitely the clock. And also the scale. You know, we're used to building at our leisure, you know, taking time on the larger projects that we have done. But in general, I know I'm a tiny builder. I like smaller scale scenes and sets. I know Ed tends to build small because he does his Lego photography, you know, for his Instagram. So those two things were a challenge. And I think that was very apparent in the second episode. We understand why it was our time. You know, we saw that humongo board, and I think it occurred to us too late that we needed to build up, even if we kept our scene the same, to have built up just so that it had more prominence would have made more sense. And that light bulb did not turn on in the time that I wish it had. But yeah, the clock was definitely a real thing. I mean, to the point my brother had to chastise me to hydrate because you just get so hyper focused on getting it done, because you know that there is a clock ticking somewhere in the background and you didn't want to run out of time. So
Right.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I look forward to see what you do on the rest of your Lego journey, but I will turn over the questions to my colleagues. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Nice to meet you.
All right. So you mentioned just before that you guys have a specific type of build that you like to do. So I guess my first question is, if you could have designed a challenge in which you guys would have dominated as a team, what would that have looked like?
That's hard.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, basically, what my main focus, what I do, what I show on my Instagram is basically just small scenery. It's focused around minifigures. So I feel like what I specialize in, what I feel like I'm the best at, are creating very detailed sceneries to place for minifigure stories, minifigure action photos, things along that.
And for me, I don't know if I could answer that definitively either. To give me a theme or a prompt, is really where I take my inspiration from. When I build, a lot of times it might be something that's inspired by the song that I sing to my 2-year-old 27 times a day, or it might be, a motivation Monday that I see at work about the glass being half full. My stuff, I just kind of pull from around me. So sorry, Tomas, is that the way you pronounce it? I have a unique name too. I don't want to butcher that, but I don't know if that's the best answer, but that's the answer on that for me.
All right. So I'm also wondering, what's the story behind Smile Check?
Smile Check.
Smile Check. It's just, I don't know. It's I wouldn't call it like a thing, but just from time to time as we grew up, you know what I mean? When we're down, a lot of the times we spent a lot of time alone because our parents worked a lot, like most people. And those times, if we were down or not having a good day, mad, whatever it may be, you got to keep that energy up. You know what I mean? You just have to. And Smile Check's just something we throw at each other every once in a while to, hey, I know you're not looking right today. See, Smile Check. What's the matter with you? You know what I mean? Just something kind of, just kind of like little household things.
Yeah, it's something that we kind of resurrected, because going into this, I'm a thinker, and I was like, there's going to be times where it gets tough, it gets intense. How are we going to signal each other? And that light bulb just came on to say, oh, hey, remember our little Smile Check from back in the day that we haven't used in a while? And we just kind of resurrected it. And yeah, it definitely fit what we were doing. And yeah, I think it's going to be around to stay because our kids love it. So. And
so it sounds like both of you are kind of avid Lego builders. So how did you get into the hobby?
Well, that's because Asiza's a follower. But no, mostly I gotta say it started with me. I've been a Lego kid since I was 5. I got my first set at 5 years old, and it took off from there, and it's been nonstop for 40 years now. So I've always been into Lego. I had a massive collection by the time I was a teenager. Little bit after young adulthood, I accidentally lost that collection. So I've spent, years building that collection, slightly back up to what it used to be, but it's just always been part of my life. It's something I loved from a kid, and I just always stuck with it. And naturally, because I was so, deep into it when we were growing up as kids, of course, Asiza and my other sister, they would join in with the fun too. If they were tired of doing what they do, or as we described before in our interview, Asiza was a Barbie kid. So she had Barbies, but she didn't have the Barbie Corvette. She didn't have the Barbie dream house. So that's where I came in. I would build her a house. I'd build her furniture for her Barbies and a car. And, that's how we just always stayed together, playing together. It was just something, I guess you could just say, bonded us. So it's just something that's definitely been in our family for over 30 years.
Yeah, it's always the gift that I know will be a winner for my brother. For me, he's not lying. I would moonlight a lot. Anytime I know that I need to go and spend time with him, I'm going to end up in his brick room. His brick room was my brick room, for a really long time. And then, I would say, hey, look what I did, here and there, as I would pick up cute little sets or, something that caught my eye and caught my fancy. But now I'm proud to say I have my own brick room. I'm proud to say that that we're doing more collaborating where I'm bringing stuff to the table to say, hey, here's where I got stuck. And,
Right.
how can I enhance this and how can I, add to it? I now have a toddler, he's 2, so we're not quite ready for Lego yet. So we're still in the Duplo stage, which is actually quite delightful as well, and it's just one of those exciting things that it's something that we can do together. I think as an adult, for me, my Lego hobby kind of came out of necessity because I've always kind of lived in smaller spaces. I mean, I have my own house now, but it's still small. And, Lego is one of those things that you can create with and document however you want. For us, it's photography, and then you can break it on down again and put that stuff away. I was a puzzle enthusiast for a while. You run out of wall space. I display small sets, so it hasn't overtaken my entire house, but I've got some things nicely placed here and there. And yeah, I feel like as I move forward, that will probably become more of a problem than it is right now, as I have been building much more lately than I have been before now. But yeah, it's just a cool hobby that is super convenient, not cheap. So there's that, but it's a lot of fun. It really is a lot of fun to just, like I said, just challenge yourself to, take a line from a song or, from the book you're reading or whatever it is and see if you can, make that come to life with bricks. So pretty interesting.
Nice. So I guess my next question is, what would be your advice to people who are just getting into the Lego hobby?
I would say start slow, because it really does get low-key compulsive fast as you're growing that collection. And then secondarily, I'm an insurance person by trade. I work for an insurance company, and I always talk about making sure that you're properly documenting what you have, take an inventory, take pictures, because your homeowner's insurance carrier is not just going to give you $30,000 if your house burns down because you say you have that much in Lego, which you most certainly could. That is a reality there. So mine kind of goes to the educational side of things with Lego, because yeah, it's a collection that grows very quickly and is very valuable.
Yeah, to that, if I had to give advice, my main thing is do you. I would say I've been building, like I said, my whole life, but as far as being a member of the Lego community, so to say, I'm pretty new to it. I only started my Instagram about 2 years ago. Up until then, my hobby has just been my hobby. And since joining the community and putting myself out there, I've met a lot of builders. There are thousands upon thousands of Lego pages, and I'd say do your own thing. Don't follow a trend. Don't try to do what everyone else is doing for the sake of doing what everyone else is doing. Lego is the perfect toy, in my opinion, in the world. It was the greatest toy ever invented because of the fact that it doesn't matter how many people are out there. It doesn't matter who you are. Every person who builds, if they do their own thing, brings something brand new to the table. And that's what is so awesome about Lego, is that there's room for everybody here. So do your own thing. Don't feel pressured. Don't feel like you have to do more than what you're capable of. Don't feel like you have to do anything. Do what you want to do and share that with the community, because the community loves just that. I feel like I'm pretty confident that most builders would say the same. It's just a way to release. It's a way to be creative. It's a way to teach. It's a way to learn. It's so multifaceted that you don't have to play by any rules. So keep that in mind when you building something, you have an idea and it's frustrating you, put it down, leave it alone, come back to it in 2 weeks. You're not on a time schedule. You're running your own race. There's no clock right there. You know what I mean? We're under a clock for a certain amount of time. Once you're off that clock, don't worry about a clock. Do you work at your pace, build what you want to build, and don't do it to please others. Do it to please yourself, and everything else comes naturally after that.
Okay, well, I think that's my time. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it on to the next one.
All right, thank you.
So guys, you big Lego Masters people now, season 3. I mean, big accomplishment getting on the show. Amy and Jamie are massively awesome people. The question I have for you to start off, what advice did you guys take from either one of them that you may incorporate into your builds in the future?
I really appreciated at one point, and I don't honestly remember if they got this on camera or not, but Amy let us know that when it comes to Lego, making something pop, color is very important. And I'm the type of builder myself, like I said, I like to do small scenes, very specific styles. I want things to look a certain way. But I myself can honestly say I'm not used to using a lot of bright, vibrant colors. And that's something that I'm definitely going to start doing now because I've just seen with my own eyes how much of a difference that can make, even in builds that you may be used to, or, if you do cars or something like that, you don't want a hot pink car, but maybe you do want a hot pink car. You don't know till you build it, So incorporating color. She also advised, of course, with Lego Masters, you got to go big. I still say on a personal level, I like things on a smaller size. To me, I feel like it's a lot easier to put detail in there. I myself, like I said, I don't have 5 million pieces. I don't have a massive Lego collection compared to, I think, most home builders. So I'm working with what I got, you know what I mean? So you got to kind of keep things small. But I just say, for the most part, she said to use a lot of color and try to add that pop to your build. So that's something that I'm going to try to really incorporate into my own personal style moving forward.
Yeah, I would say for me too, the advice to go big was what, I took home because I too build small. But interestingly, since coming home to map out, what am I building next? Where am I going next? I actually do have some larger builds, that I'm going to attempt, which in times past, maybe I wouldn't have just because, I'm listening to the advice you just gave, Ed, for those new to the community. I'm not new, but still that actually, resonated with me to just get in there. And because I do tend to compare myself to others, I am a super overachiever. And so to just get out there and build something that is a little bolder and bigger than what you normally would. And then another piece of advice, which he didn't give to us specifically, it was given to one of the other teams, but the advice about editing your story. Because again, I've got story all day long, but yeah, if you've got too much story, it takes away from the build itself. It gets convoluted, you get lost in the weeds. So to make sure that you're editing your own story, so that others don't have to, or that they don't tune out, I thought was a really good advice.
Well, that is very cool to get the advice from those guys, because obviously they're pros. But so the next question I have for you, what was your favorite part of your build from last night? Obviously it was Jurassic theme, but what was your favorite part of that build?
I will start with this one because oddly, the most exciting part of that build for me was the little bathroom that was on there, which I don't know if it got a lot of airplay, but it was just that iconic little dual paneled, bathroom that you would see at any park that you visit in any part of the country that you go to. And I don't know, there's certain situations where you're like, man, I really nailed this. And we did some fun mosaics with the little blankets and, did a lot of little scene vignette work on there, but I'm most proud of that bathroom. No lie. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's funny, believe it or not. That was one of my favorite parts too. Yeah, that bathroom, it's so funny. Like, to go back to what we had said earlier, I can't tell you how much time in parks growing up. That was our jam. We'd go to the park, we'd go get some ice cream, hang out at the park all day. So that iconic park bathroom, as funny as that may sound, that's something that really stands out in nostalgia. So that was pretty epic, the way that she threw that thing together. It was effortlessly done. I loved it. For me, the other part of the build that was, I would say, the part that I enjoyed but also tortured me, believe it or not, was that dinosaur. Yeah. That was I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say here. Basically, it worked and it didn't work. So that dinosaur, we knew, because we wanted to go with minifigures in the story, we couldn't build a huge dinosaur. The contrast, it wouldn't work. So we wanted to build something that was big, obviously. So we went with the dinosaur. But the motion that I had in mind for it, and this wasn't shown on the show, but we wanted it to look like as the dinosaur was coming over the movie screen, he got caught in the wires. So I didn't want the motion, because the motors will make the dinosaur move completely side to side, which is not what we wanted. there was too much torque inside that motor. And I'm new to using motor function. That's not something I've really dealt with in my Lego journey. So as we're learning how to slow down the movement, that took up a lot of time. And that's where we kind of got in trouble with the fact that we had so much open space so late into the build, because the majority of that time I was actually trying to figure out that power function and how to make the dinosaur not fall apart once we turned it on. Because in order to create the motion I was trying to create, the dinosaur was sitting in two parts and it was only connected by a 1/2-inch pin. So had we turned that motor on and it went full function, the top of the dinosaur would have literally flown right off. And that's not what we were aiming for, but I did want it to have a real jerky, caught up, kind of funny looking motion, which I feel like we succeeded in, but I don't think, like I said, they showed that on. So that was pretty exciting for me because I had never attempted that before, period. And I feel like I executed it and it worked. So I was pretty excited about that.
And I'll piggyback on that because, I think that was probably the most impactful part of this experience for me, because there was a minute where, Ed looked at me and, just kind of whispered under his breath, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this. And, I said, hey, you're gonna take a breath and you're gonna keep going. We're gonna get something, it's gonna be fine. And so even though, again, perception, whatever it will be from whomever was watching, that was phenomenal. And I have never been prouder of my brother than I was in that moment. And even more so as we watched it back with our children yesterday, to be able to tell my nieces and my nephews, hey, your uncle, your dad, he got stuck and it got hard and he didn't quit. He kept going. That was gold. That was worth more than.
Awesome. That's really cool to hear. Last question I have for you guys. In the production of the show, you guys go back and watch it and you're in the bottom two on this episode. What were those emotions that you guys were feeling like when it originally happened? Like what was going through your head? You're like, oh boy, what were you feeling?
I'll say, I could say this openly and honestly. I had a feeling that we were going home on that build. I got to say, maybe a couple hours into the build, looking around the room, seeing the competition, especially coming off of that first challenge, we knew what the judges were looking for. They didn't have to say it. We kind of knew what they wanted. I feel like our attempt was to rely on our story more than the build and have the build complement the story for that. Obviously, wasn't the greatest idea. You see, it didn't work out. But I feel like I kind of knew that there was a possibility we would be in the bottom, but I was still hoping for the best. And I tried to pump Caesar up. She tried to pump me up, and we built as best we could for that challenge. So when we were in the bottom two, I kind of was like, it can go either way. You don't know. But once they called our name, I got to say it was definitely a letdown. You feel the disappointment because, you're going to be leaving the show. But if it doesn't sound too cliche, the amount of pride that I was personally riding on just being there in the first place, there wasn't anything that could have happened that would have made me feel bad in that whole experience. We don't come from a place where experiences like this are, I don't know what to say. They don't really happen. So just being in the building was excitement enough. And I was riding so high on that, I mean, even if we would have left the first episode, it still would have been the highlight. You know what I mean? It was just so cool being there, being considered amongst all these other great builders. It was sad that we had to go because we did definitely gain a family there. I can't speak for the other seasons. I can speak for all of us on season 3. We are family now, and it is the love that we have, our bond that we had, even for that short time, is priceless. And whether we were there the whole stint or one episode, that's the case either way, and it was a win.
Yeah.
So
we're all going to meet up at BrickCon tomorrow, so we're looking forward to that.
Seriously. I was feeling okay, I guess, to answer.
And I'll be transparent too. I think I took it harder than Ed did. Again, I am seriously an overachiever. So yeah, I mean, I did want to win the whole thing, absolutely. That might have been naive and kind of pie in the sky, but I did. And So I don't know. I had wanted to at least get farther than we did. I think I would have taken it better if we were maybe third or fourth or fifth. But I will say that it was a humbling experience to learn that about myself. That yeah, I'm probably harder on myself than anyone else could ever be, because just like Ed said, the fact that we were even invited to the table is phenomenal, and we got so much just from the experience up to the point where it was time to go home. And what we gained, we didn't gain the $100,000, which would have been delightful, of course, but
Of course.
we gained some really deep, real life, lessons and things that are going to take us forward, that are pretty fantastic. And so, yeah, I was bummed, but I was also super proud, to be able to support my brother. And I think that was the biggest piece for me. I felt like I had let him down because I was there to support him, in really showcasing what he can do, because he's always been the more expert builder than me anyway. But the fact that he felt a piece about where we landed, that really helped me too. And so it was a quick recovery for me and my pride and not getting farther than we did. But it was really fantastic. And, if we had it to do all over again, we most certainly would. So
100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for your time. Hopefully I have a chance to run into you like other Lego Masters contestants at different shows in the future.
Yeah,
100%.
thank you so
Thanks,
much.
man.
Appreciate it.
Hello. Yeah. Well, just before I start with the questions, I wanted to start off just by saying, like, I like the whole time watching like both the episodes, I had such a massive grin on my face, like, because like your like vibe is so like positive, and it's just like it's such a joy to watch. I really loved like both your builds, and I guess my first question would be because I imagine like when you're working like making builds at home, a lot of your creativity is coming through working the limitations of what you've got. Like you have your box of Lego, going through the box of Lego and working with what you got. What is it like from going from that to essentially just being given like all the Lego you could possibly have? I imagine that being kind of scary.
Well,
I'll be honest. For me, it was actually, I'll say, flat out difficult. You can only see a little bit behind me. Basically, I'm sitting pretty much in front of my entire Lego collection right now, down to single 1x1 tiles, to my biggest bricks, to base plates. I know exactly where everything is. I know exactly how many I have of what. I know all of this stuff. You get into that brick pit and it's like, what's what? I have no clue. You have every color of every element of every shape and size, and you're running back and forth. You're the table's not huge that you're working on. Again, I work sitting down. Like right now, I'm sitting where I normally build. I have an entire floor in front of me. I'm not limited by space. On that set, you have a table that's of a certain size, so you can't just sit there with a pile of Lego here, a pile of Lego there. Right next to me, I have what I call my swoosh bucket, and that is literally a giant, I think, I don't know, 4 or 5 gallon tote full of Legos that I just slosh through and find the piece that I need at any given time. You don't have that option there. You have to go think about what you need, possibly go through a key and look at, try to find where it is, go get it, try not to trip over a camera or another contestant to get back to the table. It was work, man. It was work.
And we definitely had to have a conversation between the first and second build about our workspace.
Yeah.
I was like, we've got way too much. We need to start small and go back and get more. We can't hoard. It felt like for a minute, I was like, I feel like we have all of that, and I don't think we should. We need to put some of this back. So there is that desire to have it all, because it does seem like it is an unending, amount and source. And I think my favorite part was the diversity, especially with color. It's kind of a difficult thing to find those unique colors and those pieces in unique colors. So I mean, I think that part was a positive, and it really stretched your imagination as to what you can do and what you wanted to use. But
taught you how to problem solve real quick.
Yeah, we definitely over gathered was the way I would put it there.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, you know, obviously with both builds that you ended up making, I think there's so much of your personality and creativity, you know, it came out of that. And it was they're really great builds. But yeah, I guess another my next question would be something that I've asked previous contestants in the past as well, is when it comes to, like, you know, just being so in your everyday life, how often are you just constantly thinking about looking at things and thinking, you know, like how you'd build that in Lego? Is that something that's always like on your mind?
Yes and no. Of course, day to day, and I would imagine just like anybody, I have kids. I work a full-time job. I would love Lego to be on my mind 24/7, but no, not always possible. Just kind of like Asiza said earlier, I'm inspired every day by the most random things. It could be a conversation, it could be a song lyric, it could be a conversation I overheard two people I don't even know having. It could be a car that I saw earlier on the road. It kind of just depends. So when you go into a build, depending on what the build is too, because like for instance, like I said, since the show, I believe both me and Asiza have we've decided to start building up a little more, should I say, stepping out of our box of the things that we normally do. So you're drawing new inspiration. So for instance, myself, yeah, I am actually thinking about a build at the moment that is going to commemorate one of our historic buildings here in town. And yeah, that's heavy on my mind. So it's like, you know, you drive by it I drive by it every day on my way to work. You try to look at the details. I downloaded some pictures of it from Google to really start looking around. And then of course you have to make moves. You might have to order some parts or, you know, gather some bricks that you don't have to put those things together. So those for me, time wise, end up in much more timely or time consuming projects, but definitely stuff that I'm looking forward to doing.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, it must have been 12:30 last night. Some inspiration just hit me, and I pulled out my phone reminder notepad and just started writing down some build ideas. So I try to capture them as they come, and normally it is about the time that I'm going to bed and everything else is quiet and done. So yeah, I do, you know, whether it's, like I said, I spend a lot of time with my kid, you know, there's tons of inspiration there. You know, I spend a lot of time just out in nature, and there's tons of inspiration there. So I try to, you know, just in my mind conceptualize really what would that take, you know, if I wanted to build this thing. I'm a tea enthusiast. So, you know, I'm working on making a super fancy, like, functional tea service set. There's a lot of different weird, intricate things. I won't go into it, but yeah, I mean, it's really just a matter of capturing those thoughts in the moment. So I wouldn't say everything I see is something that inspires, but the things that inspire me, yeah, most certainly. To say, I wonder if I could do that in brick is something that crosses my mind quite frequently, and I just try to jot those down. So I have a longer list of builds that I want to do than I have time right now, but I know that won't always be the case. I mean, work is always work, but my kid's getting older, a little more self-sufficient, you know, and just scheduling time, you know, being intentional with our build time, which is something Ed and I have talked about quite a bit lately. Okay, you know, we're just going to do it, because if we don't make the time, there won't be the time. So,
and we're definitely going to make the time, because at some point there will be a Lego Masters All Stars, and we will be back for it. So,
well, yeah, that's really great answers, and I think as well, like, I guess that's why one of the things I really love to kind of hear about is just like how people come up with, I guess, their stories. Because I mean, I you know, I think a big part of, like, especially I think with your dynamic was, like, especially like I think the last with the you know, the Jurassic World sort of theme, the one that you did where it was like the story about your sister, you know, sort of what, you know, watching the Jurassic Park, and like I really love hearing like the way that people come up with, like, yeah, there's a sparks of inspiration, like, and that's what like storytelling is about, isn't it? It's just like you never know what's gonna kind of be the thing that's gonna like suddenly hit you and think like, oh yeah, that's an idea for a story, you know.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it comes, you never know. You're never looking for it. That's at least for me, it seems like that. You're never really looking for it. But when you see it, you know. And just like Asiza said, I myself, I take pictures of what inspires me. So if I see something or I hear something, I'll get on my voice recorder and say, hey, remember this for a build, blah, blah, blah. And usually try to execute it. And that in itself is fun. Just the challenge of, hey, I have this idea. I kind of equate it to people who can draw. I've always been jealous of people who can draw really well. You have a vision in your head and you're able to use your hand to create that image and make it tangible. And Lego to me is the exact same thing. When you have just an idea in your head and you get it in your mind that you're going to build this thing and you come up with the parts and you actually build it and it comes out actually looking like you actually imagined it, it's such a satisfying feeling. It's kind of indescribable to me. That's why I think I love Lego so much.
Yeah, it's just a different medium.
There's not too
Some
many
people
ways
use
that
paint,
you get
some
that.
people use pencil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's such a brilliant way of describing it. I think I was actually speaking to John and Xavier previously about because they're sort of saying sort of similar thing about like how it is, it's essentially like drawing, but you've got something that a physical like 3D thing there. And again, it's a thing of like if you're not someone who's like into like can really draw that way. I'm not someone who likes drawing that much, but being able to kind of create something, even if you're not drawing it, is really great. Kind of just having something that was in your head that's like actually there.
Yeah, to bring something from idea to fruition, it's the most satisfying feeling. So I think that's one of the things that definitely keeps me enthralled with it.
So I got one more question. Also, I want to kind of be sort of fairly quick because of the time, but and actually that kind of goes with the question actually. So obviously with the 12-hour like sort of time frame that you've got, I kind of get the sort of sense as well, like when it comes to doing stories and stuff, like when you've got a very short amount of time, you've got to basically come up with the kind of like you've got your idea and you just got to go with it. Even if you're halfway through it, you can't sort of think like just abandon it. You've got to kind of just go with it. And that can lead to some really interesting things where like ideas you may have originally kind of like just sort of like leave to the way, sort of like to the side, but you just keep going with that and make it as good as you can make it, I guess. So I guess do you find that there was an interesting challenge with having that kind of 12-hour sort of time frame?
I would say absolutely. And, especially in our second build, because of the fact that, again, we had this huge surface area, we had the fundamental idea of what we wanted to do, a park scene. We have, the dinosaurs breaking through. We had that piece of the story that was the true events of what happened, in that scene. But then, when you're looking in this case to fill space, what it caused me to do is say, okay, we need to add more story. And so I don't think that in the small amount of time that, the camera was on our build, that it really was able to capture all of them. There were tons of mini stories happening on that board. You had a kid who was being spun crazily on the merry-go-round. There was, a lady that had run away from her grill and, was still holding her little chicken wing. There was
the argument at the hot dog stand.
There was the hot dog stand. There was the basketball player who, dunked at the exact time that the dinosaur was coming through. And so this build, I really had to keep drawing from that well, if you will, to say, okay, what else might happen in this crazy scenario that we have built? What else might one see, if this really played out? And it was cool what we were able to come up with, all the way down to the little food truck that was in the parking lot, with a line of people that all of a sudden were distracted because there were huge dinosaurs everywhere. So, and that was a lot of fun.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. This has been really great. We could just I could easily talk for hours, but obviously I know we've got the time for it. But thank you so much. It was again really amazing contestants. I really enjoyed watching the builds that you created, and it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that'll do it. That's going to wrap up the episode here, and I hope you guys enjoyed the interviews with the four of us, the panelists on here, asking all the questions, getting to the nitty-gritty, the things that people need to know about the inside, the outs of Lego Masters, and what the experience is for so many of these people that really just get, I don't want to say they get tossed into the mix of this, but it's a big deal. It's a big culture shock, like Eddie was mentioning. You really get in there, and it's one of those things where it's not just a matter of finding pieces or whatever and working with what you have. There's millions and millions of pieces that you have to work around. So just completely different. But we'll be back next week with the show recap and then another interview show with whoever goes home next. So until we meet again, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.